my concern would be, and it's just that you're going to go in and give a facelift to this park. I would say pull the playground, just put a new playground in if you're going to really spend that kind of money there. The other thing I would say, I mean, you guys don't have a lot of money in this budget as it is, and so I wouldn't want to see a lot of site work done versus things that are going to impact the quality of your building. And also, I don't know, are we still raising it up just a little bit?
We'd have to raise it to 1 foot above 100-year floodplain, and the $3,056,000 that that is for the building. We could not use that money to develop the park. That's for the building only.
So maybe, Dr. Where's left at? Shoot us a budget sometime here soon so we can just take a look at the budget.
Compliment cards.
And I want to refresh my memory because I've got this thing in my mind that's kind of sticking there. A while back when I was at flood meeting, did FEMA okay us to rebuild that rec center back in the same location at one time?
I thought
what FEMA said was that the rec center was not eligible for relocation. That's what they said. And it's, you know, I apologize for the semantics, but it sort of gets important.
Yeah.
In that they said it wasn't eligible for relocation, which means it wasn't eligible for any additional funding to be relocated. What they did not talk about at the time was the issue of the 100-year floodplain. They just did not address it. I really have not tried to tie them down as to whether this whole question of the 100-year floodplain would arise if we went back exactly on the same footprint as the old center, because I didn't feel anybody wanted to do that. So, you know, I haven't pushed that point. I've heard varying opinions on it. But it is clear that if we're going to use FEMA money in the 100-year floodplain anywhere but the exact footprint, then they are going to take this issue up and maybe even take it up if we put it back in the exact footprint. I just can't honestly answer that.
Ms. Cedar.
I think that our ideal goal was to have these situated as close together as we could. And that may still work out in some manner, but currently we have lots of kids that have gone from basketball in the streets in this area that have no rec center. And I think that the overlay that many of us have worked so hard on for the boulevard to develop it would complement well. This would dovetail in a lot of ways the park and then this park-like setting and the building itself. Because initially the goal with an overlay was to make things as appealing and accommodating and exciting for the area and the boulevard. And what more than to bring this recreation center to a reality, because time's going by. Many of the people that have worked on this, while we have not seen this, and I'm unfamiliar with the committee you spoke of that is...
We'll develop a method for input. We'll bring it to the Northwest Neighborhood Association as we're developing the design and stuff, because we'll have to have input. However, we have to remember we have to reconstruct the center in the same form and function that it served before the flood.
So am I correct in this portal is basically the kind of design you're looking at, or is it simply
This is, we have a budget to work within, and we had talked about, you know, what would fit into that neighborhood, and we had discussion about, you know, maybe having a look like Harrison School and fitting the area, and this is Newman Munson's design and what they think would fit nice into that area to bring that community back. But we do have to work within a budget.
caught my eye.
You know, and it's
Yeah, I thought that was
time
gonna be-
check, and we could work with the VAC, because the VAC on these types of projects has funded that type, which then wouldn't be part of the FEMA budget that would need to be used for that.
Got a question?
Anything else?
No, I think that we're not set in stone how we have to have an overlay, because our main desire is to bring this recreation center back to life for the young people and the seniors and all of those that came and used the facility before. And so I think we all can be very flexible in that point of view. It's not like we're putting up a business, we're actually putting up a facility that's a great use to our community.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Councilman Shields?
I have not seen this roundabout before. Is that an aesthetic thing, or is that for purpose of moving traffic?
It's for moving traffic, it's to slow the traffic, it's to direct them around, because we will have children in this area. Yes, it's direct traffic.
Safety and
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Shields, is there anything further?
No, that's the question.
Okay. Councilwoman Vernon?
I have
something, somebody else.
Councilman Shields and Swore, we were in a meeting last week with the Economic Alliance. And Lonnie Levine and JLG, they pointed out that they're going to soon roll out their priorities, and one of their priorities is development over here. And we all talked about how important the rec center was to attracting people. And the second thing I would say, I would really compliment staff and Monica and the Department of Economic Development for their willingness to at least take a look at these parcels on a strategic level. And Joe, you guys, I mean, it's a huge step, and while we're not clapping yet, but it's a long way from where we used to be, and so, great.
Thanks. Councilwoman Vernon?
I mean, the more I look at this drawing, and I do hope that, you know, I know these are just conceptual, but, you know, when you think about its similarity to Harrison School, but I think it also has kind of the old-time factory, like with the paint, and yet it's elegant, but it's very community-oriented. I mean, it's really a nice, talk about something that could drive redevelopment in this neighborhood. And I agree with what Linda was saying. I mean, this is, again, we got to look at budget, I know, but I just, you know, we won't have a second chance to make this a nice building for these people in this community. And it is used by our whole community, but I think because of our decision as a committee to put it in a place where all can see it, it's going to have a chance to be used by more. So, and I feel really good about what we're seeing.
And, excuse me, Councilman Carr?
That's fine, no problem, thanks.
I'm looking at this, and the one thing that the rec center is that it's for special needs, ADA, it always was, we'll use that, and for the elderly use it a lot. Will the roundabout be wide enough if somebody pulled up with an ADA vehicle that they would be able to have room and traffic flow the way that they could actually get out of the vehicle to get into our center?
We would have to do that. I mean, that makes sense, because as you said before, our function was, we had special populations in that center, and they used it quite a bit, and seniors, and we would have to have adequate access, safe access. So yes, that would happen.
And I know we've been getting a lot of letters in the Gazette about the fact that we're really lacking a senior center right now, and this is really, it has always been kind of our senior center. It was one of them, but it was actually more accessible than...
It was accessible, and this building will be ADA accessible to the new standards that have been set.
Let's just make sure, because I think everybody sort of likes the plan. Is our federal force, if we proceed on ground that has not been bought with the CDBG grant, is the entity we're trying to appeal to and to work with FEMA only. So we just have one group, and I think our relationships with FEMA have been much more flexible, much more agreeable, much speedier than some of the other things that have occurred. And that's what excites me about this plan, that we're dealing with just one agency. And whether the state comes back or somebody else, I still kind of like this plan, of what's come out of this with how it might have a vista. And so, to keep things moving, I would like to place a motion, at least on the table, that we pursue this plan as the approved plan to submit to FEMA, plus proceed to develop a schedule to see if we can get this approved while we're waiting on the state to come with these other items.
There's a motion presented by Councilman Olson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Swore.
Now,
Any further discussion?
yeah, well, the first thing that I discussed is, we're going to make that recommendation to the council, or who's making that recommendation?
I believe it would go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, that's a good question.
Councilwoman Burns.
And the only thing I would want to do before I vote is, Linda, how are you feeling about that? Because this is for the entire community, but I want to just, I hate to put you on the spot, but
The pressure.
I think what you said before is, we worked hard on that overlay, and yet time's a wasting, and so we need to move forward. So are you inclined to vote yes for this?
I think that based on the fact that we needed this expenditure, so, yes.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a motion with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, motion passed. Third direction.
Get this thing built.
Right.
Thank you.